In this video, I'm going to give you 3 simple lifestyle tools that will dramatically lower your chances of getting a stroke. And it's actually based off of new research, and this research is incredibly impressive. These studies that I'm going to quote have huge sample sizes. So we have a lot that we can learn from these studies. So let's dive in and really unpack what you can do to lower your chances of getting a stroke. Okay, first, let's talk about what a stroke is, because I think there's a lot of misconceptions of strokes. A lot of people don't even know what the signs and symptoms of a stroke are. And yet it is the it is the leading cause of death in America, according to a 2025 study in the Journal of Stroke. It's the leading cause, and yet we haven't quite mastered the lifestyle, nor the signs, nor the symptoms. So let's unpack all of this right now. There are 2 types of strokes. One is called an ischemic stroke, which is where a blood vessel supplying the blood to your brain gets blocked. This makes up about 90% of the strokes. There's also something called a hemorrhagic stroke, which is when blood vessels in your brain actually burst. And this leads to about 10% of all strokes. And there is a way you can diagnose somebody who has recently had a stroke, because the interesting thing about strokes is once you have identified that somebody is having a stroke, every single second matters. And because you're dealing with blood flow to the most important organ in your body. And I will tell you, this is a highly personal issue for me because my grandfather died of a stroke. And it's one of the very few things in my medical history that I keep an eye on. So stroke prevention is always on the top of my mind. So here's how you can diagnose somebody really fast. And it's built off an acronym called FAST, F-A-S-T. And here's what you do. You want to first look at the face. So you'll see that one side of the face will usually droop, or if you're experiencing it, it may actually, if one side of your face goes numb. So ask the person, it's easy. If you look at somebody and you're like, oh my God, I think they're having a stroke, ask them to smile. If they can only smile on one side, there's a good chance that they're having a stroke. The A stands for arm. So you're looking at weakness or numbness in an arm. So ask them to raise their arms. You can ask them to raise both of their arms above their head. The third is S, and it stands for speech. And this is any slurred or unintelligible speech or trouble understanding the person who's having a stroke. So pay attention to how they're talking. And then the fourth one that you really want to focus on is time. You got to call 911 immediately. So if you're looking at somebody, they're slurring their speech, their smile's half, they can't raise their arm, like immediately. Time is crucial in this particular medical condition. So now what's interesting is there was a 23 study that found that about 20% of people will have a stroke by the time they're 75. And some people don't even realize that they've had a stroke. So understanding really quickly, it reminds me a lot of CPR. Remember when we all took CPR in high school so that we could learn if somebody was having some kind of cardiovascular event in front of us? We all knew very quickly how to keep that heart pumping. I feel like with strokes, it's the very same thing. We need to be able to use this acronym of FAST, the face, the arms, the speech, and move quickly so that we can hopefully save somebody's life that's having it. Now, how do we prevent it? So there are 3 major ways you can prevent a stroke. And they're simple. I just want to point out, we love to overcomplicate health, and we love to outsource health to medications, to supplements, but this is easy. This is easy, guys. This is not hard. The first is you're going to eat a Mediterranean diet. Now, I know Mediterranean diet's been around for a long time. It's not sexy, but it is effective. And when you look at the research on strokes, it's incredible. So there is a brand new study, 2026 study, that looked at how diets affect stroke in women. Now, what's interesting about this study I want to point out is that the researchers tracked the dietary patterns of over 105,000 women over the last 30 years. I wish, I look at so many studies, I wish you could understand how big of a sample size that is. What they are recommending has to work for the majority of us because they did their due diligence. Large sample time, looked over 30 years. And here's what they did. They scored women's diets based on how close they were to the Mediterranean diet. So basically, they looked, here's the Mediterranean diet, just if you're confused. They looked at their healthy fats, which is olive oil, fatty fish, raw nuts, avocado oil. I brought you lots. I wrote about it in Eat Like a Girl. They looked at their vegetable and fruit consumption. They looked at their whole grains and legumes. So those of you who are still scared of carbohydrates, I want to tell you that there are good carbohydrates, and we'll talk about that in a moment. They looked at how minimally they brought in refined carbs and sugar. So many of the videos I've done for you here have been about the harms of processed food. So it is about reducing as well as adding in. And they looked at the whole foods. Like you've got processed foods that are highly refined, like what you find in the middle aisles of your supermarket, and you have whole foods. And so they're just because we call them food doesn't mean they're equally healthy for you. So the researchers tracked 103 different foods, and they gave women a score of 0 to 9 based on how close they were working with the Mediterranean diet I just mapped out for you. So a 0 would be they're eating a highly processed diet. A 9 would be that they are staying very strict to the Mediterranean diet. And the study found that the more women adhered to the Mediterranean diet, the less likely they were to have a stroke. Women who scored 6 to 9 were 20% less likely to have a stroke compared to women that scored 0 to 3. This is not hard. I promise you, you have plenty of delightful things to eat when you dip into those foods I mentioned. So I really want to say that there is an equal contribution here to eating good, healthy foods, but also avoiding the processed foods. So it's a good combination of both. And that's a real massive difference. 20% less likely to have a stroke if you are eating more of the fatty fish, the good oils, the proteins, the whole grains, the fruits, the vegetables, the healthy animal meat, and avoiding the chips, the cookies, the desserts, the canola oils, the cottonseed oils. We have to address it from both angles. Okay, number 2 thing you can do is stay active. Even a little bit. This is really exciting. I'm not talking like you have to start to run marathons. This is simple. So a 2024 review in the Journal of Neurology found that physical activity is so powerful for preventing strokes. And this study was huge, 750,000 people in this study. And they tracked all types of activity, which is great because if you saw my video that I mentioned things I was giving up. One of the things I was giving up in 2026 was the gym because I'm tired of working out indoors. So I do a lot of hiking, a lot of surfing, a lot of outdoor adventures. And so this study looked at that. And they found that it wasn't just working out that prevented the stroke, but it was things like walking, hiking, and sports. So if you play hockey or you love a softball game, so it's just about movement. And what they found is that people who moved their body 20 minutes a day, however you move it, put music on and dance, do jumping jacks in your living room, do circles around your house, but just do it for 20 minutes and you will have a 29% lower risk of stroke. That's only 20 minutes a day and you get a 29% lower chance of stroke. And they even went on to say, even if you got 19 minutes, even if you got 15 minutes, people who just moved their body and made it intentional every day still saw an 18% decrease in strokes. So let's just get moving. But I would say let's enjoy moving. That's the exercise that's the best for you is the one that you enjoy. End of story. I know that I've done a lot of videos on exercise and strength training, but what is the one that you can do with pure love and enjoyment, because you'll do it every day? 20 minutes is not going to feel that hard. Okay, number 3 is you are going to limit alcohol. Now, there's been a lot on alcohol lately, and I feel like we always go in these pendulum swings when it comes to certain foods and certain habits. And we've gone from back in the COVID days where everybody was drinking, and we pendulum swung back to nobody should be drinking. But what about moderate drinking? Let's put some numbers to this. So here's what we know, is that if you have 2 drinks or more a day, your risk for stroke goes dramatically up. So this was a 23 review in neurology that looked at alcohol consumption and stroke in over 25,000 people. We're back at large sample size. And they compared non-drinkers to low alcohol intake drinkers, which was 1 drink a night. And they're saying that no alcohol and 1 drink a night caused no increase in stroke. But the minute you started to go into 2 drinks or more, you started to see your risk of stroke go up. So here's what they're saying. Starting at 8 drinks a week, the stroke risk increased with each additional drink. People who had 14 drinks a week, that's 2 drinks a night, had a 57% increase in stroke risk. 5 drinks in 1 sitting, which is the equivalent to a bottle of wine, was so harmful that it caused a 39% increase in stroke risk. So remember, when we're dealing with alcohol, it's the dose that dictates the poison. So let's keep, again, we're back at moderation. Can we keep that drink down to 1 drink a night? As we go over, can we start to see that we are increasing our chances? With movement, can we just do 20 minutes a day? Super simple, move 20 minutes a day. And with this diet, how about we just stay off this processed foods and we start to eat whole foods that, yeah, you got to cook it, you got to prepare it a little bit more. It's not addictive. Ultimately, these 3 things are going to make you drop weight as well. And they're easy to follow. One of the things I think we do so much in the health world is we overcomplicate health. Staying healthy, longevity is another big one. Trying to reverse aging. These things are not difficult. What's difficult is that the modern world has been putting the shiny objects in front of us. So the quick fix diet, or the got to go to the gym and hire a trainer so you can lift weights, otherwise you're going to have Alzheimer's. The fear mongering that goes on, not just in science, but in the wellness industry, is horrible. We need to start to come back to a simple lifestyle. The Mediterranean diet, eating yummy whole foods. We've been praising that diet forever. We move your body. We don't give up alcohol. If we like alcohol, we just limit alcohol. And those are some really big steps forward to preventing stroke. So I hope this was really easy to digest. I hope you take it and put it into action. Please send this to somebody you know who has stroke in the family history. I know for me, this is the kind of thing that my sister and I talk about often because our grandfather died of a stroke. But the most important thing is that we do not overcomplicate the number 1 cause of death. We make it simple so that everybody can follow it and we make it enjoyable. So as always, let me know if that helped. If you like this video, you're definitely going to want to check out the next one.